Hi, welcome back. Today we are going to be making one of my favorite meals from childhood. I used to call them taco rings. Basically, it's just a croissant crust. We're going to stuff it with some taco filling, and then we're going to top it off with some of our favorite toppings. Now, before we get started, as always, let's preheat our oven. All right, now while we wait for our oven to preheat, let's get our ingredients out and then we can start to prep them. So what you're gonna need is a pound of ground beef, some taco seasoning. When I do something that's packaged like this and I don't notice much of a taste difference, I will opt for the less sodium option, just because if you can cut corners in sodium, why not? You will also need a bell pepper. Today I'm gonna go through how I like to chop and dice my bell peppers, but you can also get the pre-chopped peppers, or better yet, if you get the pre-chopped peppers and onions, you can do that as well. Today I actually have a shallot left from one of my previous recipes, so I'm gonna use that. You're welcome to use any other onion that you like. You're welcome to forego the onion altogether, or you can buy the pre-chopped peppers and onions that you find either in your produce section of your grocery store or in the frozen section. Both of these are fine alternatives. Next, we're going to need our croissant dough. For today, I have the grand size in the original flavoring. It's about a 12-ounce package of the croissant dough. Inside our taco rings, along with the ground beef, we're also gonna wanna get some kind of cheese. Shredded cheese is probably best for this recipe, but you can get any variety that you like. Today I got the queso quesadilla cheese. To be honest, I've never had this cheese before, but I saw it and I figured it would be a nice time to try it. I also like to include some salsa in my taco rings. Just adds a little bit more flavor, but you also may want to get some salsa for topping off the taco rings, having some chips and salsa, which we will serve on the side. So salsa of your choice. Like I said, I'm going to be serving these today with tortilla chips on the side. Today I'm going to be doing my favorite, which is the hint of lime. Now for our toppings, I am going to top mine off with some shredded lettuce. You're welcome to buy a head of lettuce and shred it yourself. I got the pre-shredded kind because I feel like this also makes it easier. I also got some cherry tomatoes. I'm actually going to cut these tomatoes for today, but if you want to get tomatoes that are already cut, you could always use canned chopped tomatoes, and all you would need to do is drain the sauce. So we got some tomatoes, and lastly, I'm going to drizzle mine with a little bit of sour cream. I'm actually using my lime crema from my enchilada casserole recipe the other day. We still had some of that left and I feel like it would go really well with this recipe. If you want to make the lime crema, I basically just do 2 parts sour cream with 1 part lime juice. Now that we have our ingredients out, before we begin preparation, it's always a good idea to make sure that we have our equipment out and available. For today, we are going to need a sizable pan. This is where we're going to cook the beef and the veggies. So something that is a little bit deeper, also relatively big, just so that we can have that space. If you are preparing your own veggies and chopping them up yourself, you're gonna want a cutting board. And lastly, a baking pan. I usually like to line my baking pans with some sort of aluminum foil or parchment paper. I actually recently got these silicone Amazon mats as well. I find that they're nice because they're reusable, they're non-stick, and they're also heat resistant. As always, I will do my best to link some of these products in the description below if you are interested in looking into them. Now let's prepare our ingredients for cooking. We are going to cook the beef in a pan. Before we get that started though, I want to go ahead and chop up my bell pepper and my onion so that way when it's time to put them in the pan, they're ready to go. For smaller vegetables like these, I will usually just get a regular size knife, maybe even a paring knife. So something like this is fine, or you can also do something a little bit smaller like this. This is what I'm gonna use for today. When I am cutting my bell pepper, what I like to do is I like to just cut right down the sides, right around the pit, so that way I'll have 4 sides already cut out that then I can go in and chop further. So like this. The reason why I do it this way is that oftentimes the outer layer has a waxy kind of consistency that my knife is having a harder time cutting through. So by opening it up so that way we can get to the inside, it will make it much easier to dice. This you can throw away, and then I will take each of the sides and just slice it, just like this. See how much easier my knife is going through the inside? All right, so now that I have my julienne slices, you're gonna wanna bunch them together kind of like this. You can do more or less depending on how comfortable you feel doing this, and then just chop through, holding them all together. Now for my shallot, I'm gonna kind of cut it similarly to an onion. So I like to cut through one side, which already kind of starts to peel the outer layer. If yours is not peeling, you can also take your knife, just run something right down the middle, being careful not to cut your hand, and then just peel that little layer off. All right, so now that we have one side chopped, the other still intact, because this is going to help keep the onion together, I will just cut through and make relatively thin slices. You don't have to go too thin. Sometimes folks will actually chop it in half this way one more time, so that way there is a flat edge that you can then lay down the onion on the cutting board and cut that way, which is also fine. So because my onion is a little bit smaller, this makes it easier. I will kind of just quarter it like this. It doesn't have to be the same size. All right, our chopping is complete. If you chopped your own, you should have your chopped peppers and onions ready to go. If you purchase pre-chopped onions and peppers, just set them out. If you got the frozen bag, maybe leave those out now and they can start thawing out for when we're ready. We will set these aside and we will start to cook our beef. Let's start by turning our burner to medium-high heat. It's actually better for the cooking process if we sit and wait for it to warm up. So I'm gonna give it a few minutes and let that heat up before we put our ground beef on top. While we wait, let's bring out some of our ingredients and have them nearby so that way we can start to add them in. Now that my pan is nice and hot, I am going to sprinkle just a teeny bit of oil on there. I'm gonna turn down my burner just a little bit. I'm gonna do medium-low heat. It does depend on your oven, so you may know better than me what your oven does. If it gets really hot, if it doesn't get hot enough, you can decide how to adjust it. Then we're going to add the beef. It may sizzle. I'm gonna grab a spatula here. Any cooking tool will work. And just start to chop the beef into smaller pieces. You can already see how some of the pieces are starting to brown. That's what you want to start to see. You'll keep repeating this process until the meat is no longer pink and all of the chunks are brown. You can see how the pink in the beef is significantly reduced. Because we're going to cook it on here and then we're going to also cook it in the oven, we're in a pretty good place as far as preventing any undercooked meat. So now I'm going to add in my bell peppers and my onions. Give them a little stir so they can be mixed in well with the beef. And we're gonna let them sit there for a few minutes before we add our seasoning. So if you are using a taco seasoning pack like I am, you'll see on the back that it says to add in water to the mixture. Now, because when you cook beef, it has that fluid in there, I'm gonna skip this step and just add my seasoning. Now that my veggies have softened a little bit, I'm just going to pour the taco seasoning packet on the mixture and mix it up. see how that seasoning dries up the liquid that was in there. It nicely coats the rest of our beef. Once you have it well coated, you can turn your burner off, stir it a little bit longer, and then we will remove it from the heat. While we wait for the beef to cool, let's grab our baking pan. Again, you'll want to line it with some form of aluminum foil or parchment paper, or if you have the silicone mats, you can do that as well. I find that these help with the longevity of pans. It just prevents any stuff from getting cooked onto it or prevents any buildup from happening. So now we'll take our croissant dough and we'll start to situate the ring around our pan. As with all canned products, let's just rinse off the tops just in case there's any dirt or dust that got into them. I don't know why, but opening these is really fun to me. Fun / terrifying, because you don't know when it's gonna pop. If you've never done these before, you basically look where it says to pull here and you pull that tab all the way around, and then it says to press a spoon, but I've always just used my hands. Press it down, and then it should pop. Now you'll twist the outside until it starts to come out, and it should come out pretty easily like this. You'll want to find the seams that go right down the middle of this dough, and you'll want to just start to gently separate that, because that is going to be the start of the roll. See? Unroll it all the way. As a kid, making the rings were my favorite part. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna separate each section, which is gonna give you a little triangle. It's okay if they fall apart or break. It's easy to kind of pinch them together. Take this bottom of the triangle and you're gonna start to layer it a little bit overlapping the other piece all the way around. So again, you'll take this triangle piece, take the bottom, layer it with the other, pressing down to seal the edges together. There are 8 pieces, so there should be 4 pieces to each side of the circle, and you just keep going around, patting them down, sealing the edges. Now your last one should cover this side. This is also a fun thing to do with kids. So if you are looking for ways to get your kids involved in the kitchen or just giving your kids exposure to different types of foods, this is a really fun one to do. And even though we are doing ground beef today, you could also do shredded chicken. You could do eggs and sausage bakes for breakfast, maybe turkey and cheese or a deli meat and cheese. You could really play around with this. Now that I have this all situated, I'm going to grab my pot holder. We're gonna wanna bring over our beef mixture close to where we have our croissant dough, so that way we can easily put the beef in our rings, okay? Here we go, we have our beef mixture. We'll have it set to the side. It might make more sense to grab a larger spoon, maybe something like this, just a big serving spoon, so that way we can then take little spoonfuls of the beef and lay it out right here at the thickest part of the triangle. So right at the inside. As you're doing this, you will want to leave a little bit of room on the inside of that ring, because what we're going to do is we're going to take our edges and we're going to fold them over and seal them to the inside of that ring. It's also okay if it starts to kind of come out of the sides where the triangles are. I also love to use any leftover beef that I have over top of tortilla chips for nachos, or mixed into a rice bowl, cooked into a quesadilla. You can really do so much with it. Be sure to fill in any lighter spots. All right, I have to wash my hands. So what I like to start with is any kind of salsa. Now we can reuse our spoon that we used for the meat, I'm gonna rinse it off a little bit and then pour a little bit of salsa on my spoon just to give me some kind of guide. You could also do it directly from the jar. And lastly, we'll top it off with some cheese. You're gonna wanna still make sure that the inner layer of that ring is still accessible. As I take my tips and fold them over, seal them into that inner part of the ring and just pinch it so it sticks. And you will do that all the way around. So again, just like another light layer on the tops of my croissant. Now that you have your ring, we can put them in the oven, and you're gonna wanna bake it for anywhere from 13 to 16 minutes. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my timer for 14 minutes, check on it, and then decide if I want it to be in there a little longer. Don't forget to set those timers because we are going to be doing a few other things and preparing our toppings, and it's very easy to forget about something in the oven. So set that timer and let's prepare some of our toppings. I'm gonna get out my shredded lettuce, my salsa, and then I also have my lime crema. Something else I also like to add is cherry tomatoes. If you don't want to individually slice up all of these tomatoes, you could do whole tomatoes, you could get canned tomatoes and drain out the liquid, or you could just do salsa. Because all I did was cut up the peppers and onions on this cutting board. I'm gonna get that back out. I also have my paring knife. So I am going to rinse off my tomatoes and just take one at a time. To make it a little easier on myself, I will just cut them in half because they're already quite bite-sized, and so cutting them in half does the job. But if I used canned, chopped, or diced tomatoes, that might be an opportunity to have them chopped up into smaller pieces if that's what you prefer. Now I will set these aside. If you are making your own lime crema, this would be a good time to do that. All I did was mix in 2 parts sour cream with 1 part lime. So here I have a half a cup of sour cream and I poured in a 1/4 cup of lime juice. I have about 9 minutes left on my taco ring. So what I'm gonna do in the meantime is just start to clean up a little bit. Okay, mine is done. Don't forget to turn off your oven. Mine took exactly 14 minutes. You can see that the croissant is golden brown. You can see the cooked cheese on top. Because I like to have mine with the shredded lettuce and the tomatoes, I will actually just put some of the shredded lettuce right here in the middle, like this. Then I'll just take some of my tomatoes layered over top. So many different colors. I'm gonna go ahead and make my plate. I will take something like a spatula or a wooden spoon if that's what you have, and I will cut at least 2 of the different croissant pieces. So I'll go like this and then scoop it and put it here on my plate. And then I will take some tortilla chips around the side. I will put a little bit of salsa on top of my taco ring, and then I'll put some on the side for my chips, like that. And last but not least, my lime crema. And here you have it. Now let's try. I try to get a little bit of everything in there. Thank you for making one of my favorite childhood meals with me today. I hope you enjoy yours. I will do my best to link everything that we used today, including food and equipment, in the description below. Let me know how you liked it, and I'll see you next time.